like, see guys, this is why I wanted the lights maybe to be dimmable, but it doesn't matter. You can kind of see. You know, you'll get like some little host in the middle, and then all these guys around will go out to it. And you'll get this guy and then all these guys. And, you know, you might have a couple clusters that communicate with one another. Nothing surprising. And there's that guy. Yeah. 220,000 node, 330,000 edge, 22 deep. You know, there's a name server out there that if I send it a request, one of 1,000 different IPs comes back to me to service that request. I have no freaking clue what the hell this is. This is not supposed to exist in DNS. The data is really compelling and pretty. So I don't know what's going on. Now, raise your hand if you've seen the picture on the right. Ah, yes. Now we're going to move into even more fun with DNS. As some of my friends said, oh my God, Dan, that wasn't actually supposed to be useful. So, how many people here have heard about the little Sony stuff that's been going on lately? Ah, now you guys raise your hands. So here's the deal, right? So Sony did a little bit of a bad thing recently. Placed malicious code on like a couple million CDs that they're admitting. You know, it's really funny. Some people think that this malice was contained just to the, you know, the cloaking code. No, the malice is on the rootkit. Not on the rootkit. The malice is on the DRM. Like, it actually is from a security standpoint. Here's the deal, right? Overstayed welcome. If you're my friend, you can be my best friend in the world. You refuse to leave my home, you're not my friend. If you do that to all your friends, suddenly you have no friends. Sony did kind of the same thing. They released software that they wanted to get in through as little consent as possible, if that, if any. And once it was there, they wanted it never to go away. That's why there was no uninstaller that it shipped with when, you know most Windows code has uninstallers, not this one. You know it's very rare you have to beg online for an uninstaller. You needed to beg for this one. How many times have you seen 3 uninstallers necessary for a product because they keep their hand in the cookie jar? Oh, I've only heard of it in this case. So, you know, the idea is there was a way that they wished computers operate, and that's nice. I want a pony, but you don't get to go ahead and modify the entire computer infrastructure to be what you would like. And what was their solution to the claim? You know, what was their solution to, well, people will want to get rid of this? Well, they won't want to get rid of it if they don't know it's there. That is why it's not just a rootkit problem. The rootkit goes to intent. The rootkit shows that they intended to go ahead and have software that would run without user consent. That is why the security community has reacted as violently as it has. That, and for the love of God, we cannot fight multi-billion-dollar companies playing the hacking game. So, in case anyone thinks this is not like active policy, the music industry will take whatever steps it needs to protect itself and protect its revenue stream. It will not lose that revenue stream no matter what. Sony's going to take aggressive steps to stop this, etc., etc. Sony Picture Entertainment US Senior VP. So, I'm just saying, we see what they did, we see what the implications are, and then there's Steve Heckler. Okay. Get this stuff off. There's a problem, though. Get this stuff off what? I mean, Sony sure as heck isn't going to tell anyone what's going on here, how many systems are infected. What if we're wrong? You know, what if we found a rootkit and no users were actually dumb enough to install it? I mean, that'd be fantastic, right? I mean, how rare is it in the security community that, like, problems are better than we thought? I mean, that's like a rare gift. I would love to be wrong. I really would. So I wanted to know how many systems were actually affected by this stuff. Because if it was like 1 or 2,000, who cares? We get those 1 or 2,000 people fixed, and we don't need to make that big of a deal of it. But what if it's a worm scale infection? Okay, then maybe. But we had no data. Well, we had no data from Sony, no accurate data. But that's understandable. I mean, they did do something criminal. You usually don't talk. It's kind of what your lawyers tell you. Microsoft could have found out, but there's a little bit of massive drama going on right now with the HD DVD versus Blu-ray versus what features Blu-ray will and won't have. I kind of see where Microsoft is coming from not, showing off just how bad the problem was. The real question is the antivirus vendors. Sony went to unnamed antivirus vendors that you can look up on Google. And that was about the first reaction they had. And what was the first press release? Sony talking to these antivirus vendors. I don't know the last time I've heard of an antivirus vendor talking to a virus author in terms of like, let's negotiate how we can keep your stuff on lots of machines. I don't mean to be rude, but that's not exactly what they pay them to do. I thought we figured this out with spyware. Keep our systems safe or go away. So what Bruce and I basically said it best. What do we do when the makers of malware are colluding with the very people we pay to protect us from malware? Rather than waiting for someone to finally give data, I kind of realized I can go get the data myself. So here's the deal, right? All disks with the XCP Aurora rootkit also had some code that went out and connected to Sony-owned sites, this connected.sonymusic.com address, among some other names. Now, the internet doesn't run on IP addresses. You can't just like throw that in anymore. You can throw a name into the phone network. You have to have numbers. And that's what DNS gives you. It gives you these numbers. And so I thought about it. I'm like, well, you've got all these people, and they're doing all these lookups. And all these lookups are going to Sony if they've got the rootkit. And all these responses are coming back. These responses are cached just in case they'd be useful for someone else later. I wonder who else they might be useful for. Oh, yeah. If only I had, like, a list of every named server in the world. Yes. They could hear me cackling from several miles away. And even better, there's this mechanism, what I was mentioning earlier, the non-recursive lookup, that would go ahead and go get the data from the name servers only if it was already cached. So I wouldn't even be like polluting the data set. Now this isn't a method I created myself. Louis Grangia went ahead and wrote this fantastic paper, DNS cache snooping for fun and profit. And I looked at it and thought about it and was then like, let's do that like a couple 100 million times. And back in November, I basically spent an entire weekend, I was partying and the computer was scanning and every, every 16 hours I looked at the data, I'm like, no, that can't be right. Yeah. So what'd we find? 556,000 hosts that were saying either connected.sonymusic.com, updates.xcpaurora.com, or a little bit of the Suncom addresses. It turns out I even had more. Well, I'll give you some of the constraints later. This is really weird. There's data from 165 countries. These discs are only supposedly sold in the US. How the heck are we getting outside? The best theory we have now is, well, how did we get here? We got here through CD piracy, through music piracy. What if a bunch of the infected discs are from pirates who copied the discs and exported them out of the US and kind of pirated the rootkit as well? I really don't know what the legal implications of that. Wouldn't it be funny if Sony was actually not responsible or did not ship most of the gear that infected systems had? I don't really know what to think about that. So then the next thing I did is I actually went ahead and made some maps. And because I have limited ability, I actually have all of 50 minutes battery life in this until Dell sees it the next time. But I went ahead and made some maps and actually threw them on a globe as to where these infections were. Let me tell you, if you ever have like data on this scale, throwing it on a globe is awesome. And it's actually not hard. If you send me an email, I'll send you the code that, given some XY coordinates, will go ahead and throw IP addresses on a map. You do have to go ahead and get the buy the data source. It's like $500 for the database. But it's certainly been fun. So now we got some noise. Well, talking about the noise that I got rid of immediately. It turns out, even though the specifications say when you have the recursion desired bit set to 0, it will only give it to you out of its cache, there are in fact a bunch of servers that will go ahead and do all this work anyway. You said, hey, just give me the information if you already have it. It goes out and says, well, you know, I'm just going to do it anyway. It might be useful. So, I accounted for that immediately because I doubted my own data. I mean, this is too big. And I actually found 900,000 systems that were reporting the Sony data. But really only 350,000 of them would do lookups that I know couldn't have happened otherwise. I did unique lookups against names that I controlled. So I filtered those out, and I've never claimed that. I mean, they might be involved. They might have had lookups, but I can't reliably say they definitely do. Also filtered out servers that had incorrect records for names, which we'll have for a bunch of captive portals. Any servers with fixed TTLs, meaning that are divisible by 100. The idea being that, well, if they're divisible by 100, they probably went out and got fresh data. So I mean, I really did what I could to filter stuff. What was actually a really big problem that I didn't find out until after I did the announcement, though, was that one of the sites, this updates.xcpaurora.com, very, very popular name, supposedly directly connected to by the rootkit. I had two sources that both verified, yes, the rootkit actually does go there. Me, of course, not wanting to touch the rootkit because we have that fun law called the DMCA that, I don't want to be ground into the ground. It didn't actually go there. The rootkit itself, the cloaking code, actually has no network components. It's just other code that is on the same disk that goes ahead and connects to the network. This is absolutely amazing. In fact, this is probably the most interesting story. There is a massive correlation between users who thought they might be infected and users who tried to get rid of this stuff. Whatever we thought about this being something that just scared the geek community, I don't think this much DNS traffic could have come from just geeks. This was a very big story that a lot of people really were paying attention to, and that's astonishing to me. Now, my data wasn't perfect. What was the thing to do? Well, let's get more data. So guess what, guys? You're the first to hear. I actually never stopped scanning. That was back in November. Gigs. Tens of I have like 85 gigs of compressed packet logs. Anyone says I don't have data, I can't even get the data to my home. It's on a DSL line right now. It'll like take about a month and a half to ship it all over the wires. I'm sending the guy a hard drive. My database has 36.6 million records. It's awesome. So what did I end up finding through all these scans? I did go ahead and look at the Suncom Media Max stuff. Nowhere near as much deployment. So there are two addresses. This license.suncom2.com address, I only found 57,000 servers. However, the TTL on that data was set to 600. So I found 57,000 servers that had that data retrieved within the last 10 minutes. Cool. The other thing I went ahead and did was we looked up anyone who knew about this Suncom2 address at all. It was called the DNS any lookup that says if you have any information on this, go ahead and get it. Now, amusingly enough, Suncom2 has name servers that have to have names hosted by the root servers. And the root servers have better things to do than send out fresh data every 600 seconds. So even though license.suncom2.com was defended against DNS cache snooping, the root servers were handing out records with lifespans in the 131,000 second range. So no problem. So I found about 115,000 servers that knew about something in the Suncom2 domain.